What an extraordinary time for innovation. We have now more deployed devices and platforms and protocols and applications at our time than any other time to the annals of time. The activity that happens on Earth has never been more transparent. And with transparency, information is deployed, distributed, and arriving to the hands of everyone. When I was a child, we didn't have such access to the other side of the world, let alone almost the other side of town. We were ill afforded the opportunity to understand the disposition of someone in the East Coast, save we heard it perhaps in a song or on the occasion in a paper that was read. We see the activity of the world in ways we've never even imagined. And it seemingly happened overnight. And in the hands of our youth, this information, we might ask ourselves, my goodness, what have we done? What manner of tools have we innovated to give to the generations of tomorrow? What path have we set for them to understand and to remain curious about the things that they don't know and the things that they still don't see, which undoubtedly is life of experience? Which way to go in the forest that they've all entered in? The forest is more wider than it's ever been. Now, when we entered the forest, somebody gave us the direction, a compass, a guide, if you will. They knew where to meet us on the road. In today's generation, many are still looking for this forest and asking, why should I enter in? The promises of my mother and father's youth have not been fulfilled. What residual optimism remains for them? And undoubtedly, if we do not show the way, as it's been shown to us, for the next steps in societal growth, in responsibility, in care, and for human betterment, their information is either going to come from a heartbeat or a machine. We have decisions to make. Welcome to GatherVerse Youth Summit, Day 2, 2025, coming off the heels of a terrific and fantastic, heartfelt experience of GatherVerse Youth Summit Day 1. GatherVerse meets at the intersection of humanity and emerging technologies with a distinct focus on accessibility and education, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, trust, care, compassion. We're so happy to see many of you that are joining us once again, rather consistently at GatherVerse.live. We learned yesterday about leadership begins within, never without. We learned that the best way to be impactful towards our generations to come is to manifest that change which we desire for them to see, to be, and how to live. To have a vulnerable disposition, yet lead strong. Not just with blind hope, with strategic hope. And to perhaps give them more than what it is that we were gotten, because isn't that what we want most? Is for them to do at least a little bit better than what we have done, and to go a little bit further, perhaps even greater. than where we have gone. This undoubtedly is one of the most important summits we've ever held. And why? Because the youth are listening, and somebody has to meet them along the way. We go on these pathways so deep into the forest when the road was provided to each of us, and we get so deep into this forest, if you will, that we go off track because there is no more path, and we find ourselves laying down the foundation in that path that was continued before we ever entered in, so deep amongst the branches and the brambles, until one day we realize how far we've gone, with hopefully a thankful disposition of those that come before us. And the one thing that we might impress upon each of you that are joining us here at GatherVerse.live and in LinkedIn and YouTube and the Facebook and the Instagrams of the world is while you're laying down this new foundation, that you remember to leave the lights on for the ones that come before us, which is why we assembled today. We have an action-packed day 2 filled with roundtable discussions and talks. The next roundtable we have is squarely and specifically based on education, which we've assembled leaders from across not only this country, but from around the world to make a better sense of what it is that they're looking at under the throes of education through the eyes, prospectively, of our youth. We have much ground to cover. We're so thankful that you're here all. Please share this with someone, a neighbor, a friend, a stranger. Tell someone what happens in this little bit of time that we have for GatherVerse Day 2 Youth Summit 2025. If it's not us that express these words, then who will? Today it's a heartbeat. Tomorrow it just might be a machine. May our gather be well.
Hello and greetings to everyone. This is GatherVerse Youth Summit Day 2, and we are very, very excited to kick off with this panel titled Unleashing Potential, Educating the Next Chapter. Christopher Lafayette, thank you for that powerful introduction. I believe this roundtable will just be taking us to a higher gear. And with me, I have a roster of powerful panelists, and I kindly request you that you introduce yourself briefly and shortly. And we will start with you, Jamal, since you're the only gentleman here, and we will go all the way up and conclude with you, Andrina. Jamal, the mic is yours.
Hey, Jamal Thomas. I'm with Create the Future AI. Do work with mission-driven companies, including schools, to learn how to use artificial intelligence and other emerging technology to improve their impact.
Wow, you're welcome. Elizabeth. Okay, she's muted. Okay, kindly unmute your mic, kindly.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm just starting my new position as co-founder of Speaker Society. I'm an artist and also an educator. But at this point of time, I'm looking at providing platforms and opportunities for people to amplify their voices. There are so many ideas and things that they can share. So my job is to find activities and events for them to speak.
Wow, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have you here. Venus, over to you.
Hello, I'm Venus Raquel. I'm the founder of EthnoChat, and we are an emerging ag tech platform that educates people on the ethnobotanical uses of herbs in different countries and cultures. I am a former youth worker in the arts and homelessness realm. So I know the brilliance that young people have despite their circumstances they're going through in life.
Welcome, Venus. Kaylee, nice to see you again. Please, the mic is yours.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks so much. My name is Kaylee Brown. I work for Pearson, specifically part of Pearson Labs. What we do is experiment with emerging technologies to see how it can be applied across all of our products in lifelong learning to help our customers sort of reach the potential that they have.
Happy to have you. Adriana, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Adriana Stanciu. I'm an educational counselor and I'm the founder of Lecții la Minut community, online educational community, and I currently have over 22,000 followers in my country.
Wow, nice to have you here. And I am Lynn Getao, Communications Director for GatherVerse, and I will be your moderator for today. Dear panelists, shall we begin? All right. So to kick us off, we are here to talk about how education evolves. And I will start with you, Jamal. How must education evolve to prepare youth for an unpredictable future and maximize their potential? And anyone can chime in as well. But Jamal, we want to hear your thoughts from this.
Yeah, I mean, I think education actually needs more of a revolution than just an evolution. We are most places in the world, certainly here in the US and in underserved communities, we are just not serving young people's needs. We're not providing people with the knowledge, the wisdom, or the ability to leave school and be able to be members of society that are going to be able to change the world. So we need different policymakers. We need people to really put their heads and hearts around this issue if we are going to live in the type of world that most of us want to live in. Right now, things are we're just in an extremely bad spot, and it needs to be conversations like this that allow both parents and stakeholders throughout the educational space to not just request better schools and better educational outcomes, but to demand it.
Yes, I agree on the demand side of it. And it's a multi-stakeholder. Kaylee, when we're talking about this topic, I see you really nodding to that and agreeing to what Jamal is saying. And I just want to hear your perspective from your own lens.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what Jamal is saying is 100% right. And I think that we really need a systems change. And I've talked about this in the past as well, is that you need to not just change how we're teaching the curriculum, we need to change the system as a whole. So, and you start with that by changing assessments. Everything in school currently in the school system, especially in the US, is based on the assessment. Teachers teach the assessment. That's what they're graded on. That's what students are graded on. And we're not incentivizing the right things. Education was initially made to create factory workers, and the world changed, just as Jamal said, and we need to be preparing students for this more uncertain future. So focusing on skills that are more flexible and allow for that flexibility, really teaching kids to be more adaptable. The kids who are adaptable are going to be the ones that really thrive in this new world order. So things like flexibility in thinking, there's no one right way to get to an answer, right? You know, creativity, problem solving. There's this idea of a portrait of a graduate that some schools are sort of moving to, which is a really interesting idea of kind of focusing on those more, they call them transferable skills, or skills that are more rooted in this flexibility and being able to adapt to whatever the future may bring.
Yes, I totally agree with that, adaptability and flexibility. But here's my follow-up question. You mentioned that the current education system was to prepare factory workers. What do you think the current education system should prepare students for, if not workers? What is the next preparation for? And also, Elizabeth, you can also follow up on that. But Kaylee, please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're no longer in this form of doing the one thing in the same way over and over and over again, right? Those days are past us, especially with things like AI. So I think that students, instead of becoming factory workers, really need to be taught to become more like entrepreneurs and being able to add to the systems that they're creating, you know, because these repeatable processes are being taken over by AI more and more and more every day. And so we need to teach students not to do repeatable processes, but to come up with new processes and invent and be that like more in touch with human-centered skills. What can humans do that AI can't do? What can humans add to the AI system as it currently is? So more entrepreneurial and less kind of factory worker mindset.
Very powerful. I totally agree with that. We need more entrepreneurs, and what you're just simply saying is we need to be more innovators. And Elizabeth, I just want to hear your perspective on this. Please tell us something.
Um, what should our future generation be is more of a thinker than a follower. The assessment, we got to do with the assessment. And then rather look at the bigger project. Instead of one question, one problem, and one answer. And especially in Singapore, the system is very much, teacher led. I give you the problem, and there's supposed to only have one answer for the problem. But that shouldn't be. You or one of the students should be able to see that. In fact, I shouldn't be giving you the problem. I should let you see and you tell me the problems, and we solve together. So it's instead of there was one weird question that a student told me that my teacher asked me, "What will I want to be in the future?" I said, "Well, the future, you have no idea what it's going to be with AI coming up. So all the fixed roles are changing. But rather, what do you foresee the problems will be? Then you start solving and you create your role, your own identity. I mean, who knows what kind of role, the job title that we'll have in the future? Why do we stick to the old one and keep following? Factory worker,
Yes.
no.
Yeah, definitely. I was also posed that question when I was a student. I was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember most of the people in the class would say doctors, nurses, pilots, and everything. But here's the new world. We're now faced with new careers and new opportunities and new challenges to tackle, which brings me to you, Venice. And how can we make quality education more accessible and affordable across all communities globally? And Adriana, you can also chime on this.
All right, Lynn, thank you for this question. Um, as someone who's worked with young people, and especially even as like kind of a peer leader, I feel like mentorship and giving young people opportunities for leadership teaches them a lot. Obviously, we would, to make things more accessible for them, make education more accessible, we would just remove the cost. Living in this very capitalist world, that is probably the last thing that's going to happen. So it's upon our elders to step up, take the initiative to to pour into our young people. One quote that I don't remember where I read it, but really resonated with me about the intergenerational exchange was, when an elder dies, a library is burned. So
Mhm.
if you are even 5, 10 years older, my oldest niece is 5 years younger than me, but I'm still her elder. So
Yeah.
in these cases, it's like whatever you learn, even if it's a mistake you learn from, you share it with young people as it relates to tech. It's like, teach them the AI prompts. If they're a senior in high school, start getting them ready for how to talk to the chat boxes. Start introducing them to Gamma, so that they can get a creative inspiration for how to design their websites. Teach them about the things that you were learning as you were getting into the field, whether as an entrepreneur or as a professional, because those little tips can set them up for success. And it kind of is just like planting the seed. So mentorship is a huge thing that I feel like grows young people.
Yeah, definitely. That is very reasonable. Adriana, maybe you can add to just build on what Venice has just expressed right now.
Yes, I totally agree with her. As I am a mentor for young kids, and I find that this thing is very important for them. As in Romania, in my country, people are not that used to educational counseling or with mentorship programs. And whenever they work with me and they see what mentorship really is, and they understand a lot of things they didn't understand before, I give them knowledge about AI, as you said, about a lot of things. They start asking very important questions that have never been asked before by them or at school. And they start thinking differently. They start seeing life differently, and they start to get ready for jobs that haven't been created yet. Like 85% of the jobs in 2030 haven't been created yet, and we have to prepare them for that. And when you take the school program, I think it's called Agenda, maybe, and you see that we only teach a certain type of subjects, very theoretical and very one answered. It's is okay. If you are creative, that's not okay. I mean, we don't go anywhere by doing that, because the future is based on creativity. It's not based in the theorem from the book. You have to actually be able to make it work and put it somewhere where it belongs, right? You have to use it more.
Yes, and what you just expressed so far, it's just all connected. When I hear the expression from Katie to Venice to Jamal, I just see an interconnection, and we're just going to dive in deeper. And I'm coming to you, Elizabeth, on this. Then, Kaylee, what strategies can teachers use then to inspire students to be lifelong learners?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
What strategies can teachers use to inspire students to become lifelong learners?
Listen to the students more. Stop talking. Actually, a lot of youngsters out there, they have a lot of ideas. They know the world better. In terms of IT technology, in fact, they know. But then we are restricting them, say, okay, you're not allowed to use this, you're not allowed to use that, but they do. Give them the opportunity. In fact, they're better than us, better than me at least. Let them combine all this technology and produce the product they can, and let them speak. I mean, providing a platform. A lot of you is coming up to speak and say, where is our opportunity? Where is this is our world. Let us speak. Hear us. And they're actually very smart. They really know what to do. Is that we are restricting, okay, the curriculum say this cannot, okay, you're not allowed to use this. So what are we doing? We're not growing, we are trimming them.
Yes, I agree. And they're very, very smart. I think every time a child is getting born, I feel like they come 10 times smarter and they question things, and we have to be ready for that. Kaylee and then Jamal, maybe you can chime in on this. I want to hear your thoughts too, Kaylee.
Yeah, I do. I love this idea of sort of passion-led education, right? And then I think overall too, the word learning really needs a rebrand first and foremost, because the perception of what learning is kind of what carries a lot of the baggage. But really, we learn every day as adults. Kids are already lifelong learners. Like, it's part of their DNA. We don't need to inspire that. It's literally who we are as humans, right? Pearson just went through a whole rebrand about this exact thing. It's the word learning that has gotten a bad rap, but the idea of learning is hardwired into us. It's literally part of our overall health, right? So there's not really a way to not be a lifelong learner. It's just calling it learning that I feel like is a little bit of the problem.
Yes.
So we really just need to teach kids to find the joy in that. So rewarding things like curiosity, like Elizabeth was talking about, rewarding creativity, rewarding finding new ways to accomplish tasks. This idea of the days of show your work are very, very far in the past. But if you can unlock a student's curiosity, that's where the true joy in learning comes from, and not calling it learning, right? Because that just carries with it a whole bunch of, bad ideas of what that means. But just as an example, gaming, like the mechanics of gaming and the brain chemistry of gaming. I attended a workshop at South by Southwest this last year about this. The underlying reason why kids love gaming, like Minecraft and Fortnite and all these sorts of things, is really rooted in this idea of learning. They take control, they figure something out on their own and can kind of chart their own path. And so how do you use this in education? And that's sort of what inspires that continuing, desire to continue learning.
Yeah, definitely. But I also want to follow up on that. You said we need to rebrand learning. Do you have an idea, or what is your perspective on what we should call learning? If we're going to rebrand learning, what are we going to call it?
It's a great question. I would love to hear anybody else.
Or anyway, because Jamal, do you have something on that? Anyway,
I think it's actually fine to keep calling it learning. I think that the problem is that we mix up learning and education and school, and we make all of those things the same thing to young people. So they come into school all of them absolutely loving learning. But then when they arrive, we start to put them in school, and we start shoving stuff in their head as opposed to doing things that are going to do what education means, educere, to pull out, to bring forth, to find out what genius is inside of that young person, and then to help them bring that into the world. And so, teachers, they got to be lifelong learners themselves if they're going to help students be lifelong learners. If they have to be lifelong unlearners themselves if they're going to help young people understand that, okay, all of this stuff that's in your head now, it's not all right. It's not going to, you're going to be wrong about some things. And we tend to operate in ways where, it's bad. It's bad to get something wrong. You get the big F on your paper because you got stuff wrong, as opposed to saying, oh, wow, you got 10 questions out of 100 right? Right now, that's F. But no, in a game, you got to level 1 or you got to level 2 because you got those 10 questions right. So it's a complete reframe that changes how the young person feels in their head and heart about what it is that they're doing. They're accomplishing something versus failing at something. So we 100% need to have more teachers who are willing to buck the system. I'm one of those, tear this thing apart, as much as we possibly can, because it is absolutely positively not working. Teachers have to be willing to say, this is what the curriculum says. I'm gonna go ahead and not teach that. I'm going to do what I need to do to unlock curiosity, imagination, and creativity in young people, because those are things that are transferable. They're going to be able to take those skills. If they leave my classroom with those skills, and they got it, and they can't pass the regents, I'll bet on the one who left with those skills than the person who passed the regents every time.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like this idea too of like experience, right? And so maybe that's what learning, because that's really what learning is experiences that we have that create a confidence in students that they can solve problems, that they can be creative, that they can handle the things that life throws at them. So maybe learning does become this idea of experience, leaning again on the gaming idea, right?
Yes, definitely. And I was listening to you, Jamal, and you said you not only reframed the word learning, but how we also assess learners. If a student gets an F, so instead of telling them you have failed, why don't we just say you have gotten 10 out of 50 questions and that is good, let's go to the next level. I totally agree with that. Then as I'm coming to you and shifting gears still on education, how can interdisciplinary learning prepare students for complex global challenges? And Adriana, you can chime in on this as well.
Yes, thanks again. This is a great question. And I think it starts at, from a cultural standpoint. You can, say you're learning Spanish and you're majoring in statistics, but you're American, you're speaking English. You learning Spanish alone is opening you up to a world of culture. It's enhancing your global views. So whatever your path, whether it's you're in the arts, you're in copywriting, you're in tech, I think having this global perspective will help you get further, because you're going to be able to communicate with people, convene with them, connect with them. And that alone, human nature, when there's proximity, that breeds understanding. So no matter the subject, I think them alone, just being aware of, Adriana, am I saying your name right? Yeah, being aware of, some Romanian culture, what are the societal norms there, can help inform how they move in the future. I know I've traveled to Jamaica a lot, and it totally reconstructed my thinking around poverty. I grew up poor here in the States, and I always saw people stressed out. Then I went to Jamaica and I saw people who were poorer than I'd ever been, and they were always happy. And I said, wow, okay, let me take some notes. So now if I have a financial hardship, or I see people around me having financial hardships and stressed out about it, I can now offer them and myself a different and new perspective where it's kind of like, listen, you can do this to chill out. You can do this to overcome. Um, yeah,
Thank
it all
you.
boils down to culture for me.
Thank you for that insight. Adriana.
I really think that there's no such thing as learning something that will not be useful to you, even if it's a subject you're not that interested in. For example, I'm not that interested in history, but I still have some knowledge about history, and that thing actually helped me connect better with other people around me. And I think that we have to create accessibility for knowledge, because it will become an exchange rate, and it will become an exchange factor when it comes to cooperating with other people and with other teams, and even at the workplace. The more you know, the more you will be able to get yourself in a group and understand the group and the dynamic and be better at what you do. Because at the end of the day, even if it's about marketing or even if it's about content creating, you really have to have knowledge about something. And if you come like a blank canvas and there's nothing there, you can't build on nothing. And I really think that learning a lot of things and diving into the multitude of subjects will actually help you get richer when it comes to this type of, let's say, transactional money or transactional exchange.
Yeah, definitely. I totally resonate with that. I've been recently concluded a book called Range, and it was talking about having a specialized mindset versus having a generalized mindset. And what we came to the conclusion with the book is, in this current era that we're living in, it's very unpredictable. Being a generalist will help you survive because we're here to survive. Which brings me to you, Jamal. Just the next slide. What role do wearable devices and AI play in enhancing learning experiences? And I also want to hear your thoughts, Elizabeth, on this. Kindly, Jamal, take it over.
Yeah, I mean, AI, ChatGPT is my best friend right now. I spend a ridiculous amount of time in there thinking about thinking, like just focusing on my own paths on a number of different things that I'm curious about. Sometimes ChatGPT says some stuff that's not right. I'm intelligent enough to say, that doesn't necessarily sound right to me. Let me go to Perplexity or go over here or do something else. So I bring critical thinking to the table. There are educators now who instead of saying, hey, we're going to ban ChatGPT and these things because it's cheating, they are starting to say to kids, have at it, and then share with me what it is that you are questioning ChatGPT about. And if you can see what a child is questioning ChatGPT about, behold, we know what this child is now curious about. We know what collections of students are now curious about. We can start to adapt our teaching to what it is that children are intrinsically thinking along the lines of. And just to touch on the last point around global challenges, the reality is right now it's like civil society is not promised. Like things are breaking down at the same time that they're building up. Like we live in the best of times and the worst of times at the same damn time. And if we don't tap into the minds, young people, their malleable minds. We're more fixed. Their minds are so flexible. It's interdisciplinary and intergenerational learning that we need, because we can learn so much from young people. And in this world where things are just so, a lot of people don't know what's going on. Be vulnerable with young people about that we don't have all of the answers. Let's go about the business of doing this together. That, I think, is what's going to have young people say, wow, the teacher's learning, they're modeling that for me. I'm going to go and do what they're doing. It's going to change, I believe, the relationships that they're able to have. And then that in turn will be able to change a lot of the outcomes that we have.
Powerful. I totally agree with that. Elizabeth, do you want to add something to it?
Wearable AI device and AI play, and indispensable, the smartphone. And these days, what the beauty is that the young minds are very curious. I was sitting next to a young person, and there was some event going on, and some words came out, and next thing you know, she picked up the phone and she do the research. And was I still going? They were still thinking what it's about, and then she has all the answer there. They are ready. They know what to do. So why are we stopping them in the first place? Why are we so worried about this? Too much for you. No good. Oh, please, it's their word. They know what to do. Embrace it. It's like I love ChatGPT. Literally,
Yes.
chat with ChatGPT. That's because especially the part when I ask to evaluate and analyze, and that's where I start learning. I don't just ask, but ask the ChatGPT, tell me this make sense or not. And the youngsters, and if you don't teach them how to prompt properly, and you go by the old way, I'm not saying
Yes.
it's wrong, but it's like very draggy. It takes a lot of time when the world is moving so fast. So why are we slowing down our kids' learning pace or discovery? I would say discovery, explore, experiment, bingo.
Yes,
Yeah, it's more
definitely.
than that. The world is really moving fast.
Hmm. I couldn't have said it better. But let's just continue diving with this thing called AI. We want to go deeper with it, and I'm coming to you, Kaylee, on this. And how can we really prepare students for the workforce? We're not talking about the workforce increasingly disrupted by AI and automation. I know we mentioned something in this, but I just want to dive deeper on the preparation end of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick, just on the wearable devices, Pearson's doing something really interesting with technology called Revibe, which helps ADHD students using like a watch, like a Samsung watch. Anyway, so that's just a side note. But speaking about workforce and AI, I think it's exactly what you talked about earlier, Lynn, is sort of this idea of creating creative generalists. So more T-shaped people with expertise in one area, but a very T-shaped skill tree versus I-shaped, right? As kind of a lot of information across a lot of different contexts to be more generalist. And then as Elizabeth and Jamal were talking about as well, sort of using AI to get better results, do more with less, because that's going to be the future of workforce, is sort of this idea of doing more with less, using AI as an assistant. But overall, again, and it's been a common theme today, but people who are flexible and adaptable will rule the next era. Kids need to be able to reinvent themselves in order to show themselves in different contexts for different workforce challenges and different jobs. I once heard someone say that traditionally the best people at reinventing themselves are actually those from low-income households, because they've had to do that more than kids who may have come from sort of a higher-end middle-class household. So they have some real opportunities in the coming age and some real potential. And there's a bit of reversal in the skills that are needed to thrive. But yeah, this idea of creating those skills. There's also an idea going around in education right now around badging and credentialing. So the more badges and credentials that you can attach to your name, again, in that T-shaped form, the better off that you're going to be in sort of the future of work.
Oh, that's interesting. You have mentioned on badges and certifications. So what you're trying to say is, I'm looking at so many online platforms and including top 500 companies, and we have them offering free educational courses. So what I'm getting from you is for us to get all those courses, right?
Yeah. In some ways, making sure that they're efficacious and have good learning science and all that kind of stuff, because sometimes those free courses are a little more wobbly on the learning science side of things. But yeah, just making sure that you're gathering those transferable skills, passion-led education, finding skills that you can add to your portfolio to really show your breadth of knowledge in a lot of different areas. So
Thank you. Adriana, I'm coming to you on this, and it's about business. Can you just shift gears to the business side of things? What role do you think businesses and innovation play in developing future education models? And Venice, you can chime in on this as well.
Well, I really think that business should look at students and see what are their main skills and how they are developed and how their brains are developed. For example, kids in my country who are now 11 or 12 tend to be more digitally naturalized, something like that, and are more open to the digital and technical skills than other children that are bigger of age or adults. And I really think that businesses should take this into consideration. And even if it's about using AI or another type of innovation in educational models, we should actually have some sort of a digital ethical code, because we can't go into AI and dive and without having some rules. Because I think Elizabeth said something about having the results after we talked to AI, and look, I already have the results, I searched and everything's fine, but we have to have some limitation to that, because we can have some results that are actually generated, and then our students and our future citizens can take the results and work on them and understand them, not only take them as they are. I mean, I think that businesses should really take into consideration the openness of the young generation into learning and into developing their own strategies and their own ways of doing homework or doing different tasks. I mean, we're no longer in the age of this is how you do it and it's already been done like that 1,000 times. You have to go on that road. You really have to come up with something else and keep their mind jogging and keep them active. Don't give them something they have already seen like 1,000 times, because they're not going to go anywhere with that.
Yes, and that is an advantage to businesses, a very big advantage with this kind of era and the generation that is coming up to the workforce. Venice, I want to hear what you have to add to this.
Yeah, so I think that, the influence, the innovation and influence of a business is only as impactful as its leader. As a person coming out of my young years, I'm 26, I've noticed that my peers, we recognize what good leadership is and what poor leadership is. And we are reluctant to stay in places that are outdated in how they operate, who are not open to getting with the times per se, understanding the things that motivate people in this era. So can you restate the question for me? I kind of went on a tangent.
Yes, definitely. There's no worry. Just keep on expressing. We love what you're saying it. We just keep on expressing. Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is there's innovation, and I don't necessarily think that big businesses are the ones that are pushing that forward. The previous question had asked about
businesses and innovation. Businesses and innovation.
Yes. The question before that had asked about young people entering the workforce and whatnot. And I think that had really popped a question in my head about why the workforce. So I think motivating young people to take their creative passions and start their own businesses is going to be where the innovation comes from, not from, the targets and the 3Ms necessarily, because not all young people and people coming up will be the leaders are interested in joining the workforce. And I see that in my peer group, and I think that will continue to be a trend with the advancement of technology.
Yes, it will be a trend. And you just summarized a statistic that was currently released. The current generation, that is from the Gen Zs and the Gen Alpha, what they're looking for in a workforce or in a working environment is safety. They can recognize a bad leader and a good leader. They can recognize good colleagues and bad colleagues. It's never about the play for them. They can leave a good compensation for safety. And I totally agree with what you just expressed, Venice. Elizabeth, I'm coming to you. How can we redefine success in education beyond grades and degrees in an ever-changing world? And Jamal Thomas, you can also touch on this because you're very passionate on it.
Okay, grade 7 degree, everything has to change. For example, just based on the previous question, it's not about educating to adapt the business, rather the business will change according to the evolution of AI and all the new technology. Business will change. Take for example, in the old days we need to go to the shop and buy things. Now we order online, and with all this new gadget and everything come up, you've got a new influencer, a new job, a new. I mean, they are inventing the job. They have changed the way business is being run. Technology come, business change. We can't stop that. So whether your grades or degree, even like grades, you got to change according to, maybe you can be more creative. Who knows? You may even have a degree in content creation. In fact, I think there are some now. I know there are a lot of future what they call professional education whereby they go by content creation or content writing. I know there's a whole lot of new things. I'm 58. I was way back the generation that we don't even know all this. All I know is the shift in business. Every new technology shift in business. iPhone take over camera, film. Now, last time we need to process film and print. Now I just send to you via internet. That's how you produce for me. Change
Yeah.
all business. You know,
Yes.
people were sending letter. Mailman was doing business, have the job sending letters, and after
Yes.
they lost because email came in. But they got back their job because we do parcel, we buy things.
That is very,
Things.
yeah, Jamal, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I often say that we need to get rid of grades and grades. So grades like A, B, C, D, and grades like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like the idea that everybody's going to learn at that pace is nonsensical. And we just got to get over that type of stuff. The world is changing, so we have to allow young people to change much faster along with it. So I'd say that redefining education, where there are public and private partnerships. There's companies out there. I think Big Picture Learning is one where they actually in high school, they have programs that let young people go into organizations, and then those organizations have made the determination that they're going to help to be these young people be like apprenticed and things to that effect. And then they offer jobs when it's time for the young people to finish school. They get credit for the work that they do within the organizations. Now, obviously, we do have to make sure that doesn't turn into something where, where you're taking advantage of young people's labor. There have to be some protections around that. But the young people that I've communicated with that are in some of these programs, they love it. In 12th grade, my school had something called the WISE program, and I got to go like into the city on a day-to-day basis, and then be I forgot the words escaping me, not apprentice, but an internship at a music label, at a fashion place. And this is while I'm, in 12th grade, I was learning what, work looked like. And that was way better to me than anything that was being done in school. So we 100% need to just show young people the world as it is today. Tell them that these are the tools that are emerging. Say, okay, think about 2035, 2045, and what you want the world to look like. And then say to them, we want to help you create that world. And then make school the process of doing that.
That is very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. The time is not really on our side, but I want to really hear on this concluding question. I want to hear from everyone. Sorry, and I will start with Adriana. How do I create educational systems that nurture both intelligence and well-being? And we will pass it all the way to Kaylee. But take your time, Adriana. Please express yourself.
Well, I think when it comes to that, we actually have to ask two very important questions. How do we define progress, educational progress, and how do we redefine educational success? Because not every student is the same, not every student learns the same, understands the same. And if you have like a standard for everyone, there might be a lot of people that can't be entertained by that standard, and they will either fall off or just basically stop learning. And we have to understand what progress is, how to achieve educational progress for each person, so they feel valued, they feel understood, and they feel the need to be a lifelong learner. I think that's actually the thing we have to focus more right now, in my point of view. I'm curious to hear the others.
Yeah, I like that, Adriana. I like that. Kelly, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that Elizabeth's talked about several times in here as well, but this idea of passion-led education, the student is in the driver's seat. I think we throw students out into the world after telling them what to do and how to do it their entire lives. And that causes a huge amount of stress once they leave the educational system, right? And leave home. They're no longer being told what to do, how to do it. They have to figure out how to be out in the world on their own. So if we can front load that a little bit more in education, I think that that's going to help kind of nurture that idea of well-being. And students love being given this autonomy. And Elizabeth talked about this as well. But we were doing a project with an assessment that was guided by the student. And so it was an AI-driven assessment for critical thinking skills. And a lot of the feedback that we got was, I loved that I could make decisions. I loved that I wasn't being told what to do or had to choose between set options. And this is sort of how you bring that joy back into learning and take the stress out of things, as you build this confidence of, I can figure out how to solve any problem I come across by myself. I don't need to be told how to do it or what to do. And that confidence is really key for well-being now and in the future.
Yes, Kelly, I couldn't agree more. Let's just be honest. No one likes being told what to do. Let's just be honest. But the mind is there and it thinks. No one likes being told what to do. Thank you for sharing that. Venus, what is your take on this?
Yeah, so I would say on the education side, we need to pay our teachers more, and we need to have smaller class sizes. My son is in Spanish immersion, 22 to 25 kids in that class. He started in first grade. He has to have a tutor. He has to have individualized learning. He's also very hyper. So I think like a trauma-informed and a culturally competent approach to education is vital. We have a lot of teachers who already have these skills. That's why they got into the field. But some don't. And that's a must, because you will not understand a child's learning style if you don't understand them, So you have to sit and observe and really get to know the child. How do you get to know 22 kids? You can maybe get to know 10, 15 very well, but 22, 25, 30, that's too much. And that's what we see a lot in inner cities. So smaller sizes, and also bring back nap time. That goes back to trauma. You don't know what kids are going through. That little nap can do a lot, especially with the video games. Let them take a nap.
Yes, I totally agree with that. For me, I took a nap when I was in kindergarten. I think they need to bring that back. And what you said about knowing your students, I've been in situations where we have a class with 100 students, 50 learners. How does that kind of teacher get to learn the students? Because we have so many settings in the world whereby one teacher handles over 60 students in one class, just one class. So this person has 5 classes that he or she is teaching. How do you navigate that, if you can?
And are you talking about in university, or is this more like elementary, middle school, high school?
Yeah, elementary, high school.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I think it goes back to restructuring the system, allocating funds, which a lot of this stuff is out of our control in a sense. There are authorities that make those decisions. So thus we must be the placemakers, and we must have the grandmothers come in and teach. We must lean on community to really be that village for young people. We must have companionship amongst scholars and say, hey, you don't get this, or hey, I feel comfortable telling you I don't get this. Can we form a study group? So we do have to have this sense of community and lean back into that.
Yeah, that is such a great answer. Thank you for sharing that. Elizabeth, please share your thoughts on this particular discussion. Your mic is muted. Kindly unmute.
Well-being, what do you mean by well-being? Okay, sometimes I rather shift the focus to the youth or the young. I ask them, what do you understand by well-being? From their perspective, they tell me they decide what is well. If they do not understand well-being, no matter how we want to make them feel well, they don't feel well. And number two is when you give them a fixed expectation, and the schools that if you don't do well the exam, I like the idea of level 1, level 2, level 3. It's more of challenging, and then you don't pass this exam, you're going to be doomsday for you. Their well-being is going down. They're going to leave the whole, or rather, the whole studying school life thinking that they are hopeless until they reach out to work and realize, hey, actually it's not true. But you haven't tortured the poor for that period of time. So what are we doing? So what is the well-being? Being confident, being able to speak what your mind, able to do projects, able to be listened to, and that you cover the well-being. Once they're confident and they're happy, all whatever learning will take place. When we feel that they are being shadowed, they are being hide in the box, nothing's going to happen. And if they carry it all the way to the working life, oh my gosh, they're going to suffer.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Jamal, close us off with your remark.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, one, teachers are with our young people for a long period of time. So if we don't invest in their well-being, we're not then investing in young people's well-being. And so this thing called education and learning, it's a team sport. And so if we make things more about collaboration than about competition, then young people, they can be happy together. They can figure out what well-being looks like together. If lifelong learning is instilled that they are going to actually love to do this, then the challenges associated with the social emotional challenges, which right now social SEL, we try to fit that into the curriculum when we need to be fitting the curriculum into the social and emotional learning. So it's flipping so much of what we do on its head, and the reality is that there's no, we talk about the system, but there's like a bunch of little systems. And so the only one that anybody can be in control of is, kind of what they do in their classroom or what they do in their school building. So I just, encourage, individual educators and then parents at home, just making sure that each person is saying, what is the role that I can play as an individual? I got nieces and nephews. My daughter's a teacher. How can I support her so that she can support? Like, this is a community based project that we need to embark upon. And in my mind, it's the most important community-based project that we have if we are going to solve the challenges in the world. So I definitely appreciate GatherVerse for having this conversation, and appreciate everybody for sharing this wonderful acclaim stage today.
Yes. Thank you to each and every one of you. Your expressions definitely changed something with what is happening in the education realm. And we could go a distance. There's so much to cover, I believe. We could go a distance, but time is not on our side. But however, we have so many gathers coming up, so we welcome you back again. Feel free to always be here to talk about what you feel should be done. And as for our audience, this was our first roundtable panel. There's still more to come. Thank you so much. Follow these amazing speakers, engage with them. I will gather as well for this roundtable panel. Over to you, GatherVerse team. Bye.
Thanks, Lynn.
Peace, y'all.